I'm Eric Soulvie, developer of Recoil. I've been programming tools for 3D applications for about 15 years. I've spent a lot of time working with systems integration, physics packages, dynamics, pair and FIR systems as well. I was at Mannix working on the Matrix sequels, and when that closed down, we all moved over to ESC. When I was at ESC, I was working with the virtual human team. After here, I went to Blizzard Entertainment, where I was in the cinematics department working on tools. And from there, I went down to Weta Digital in New Zealand. Recoil is a physics and dynamic solution for Modo. Recoil lets you add dynamics to your scene, whether that's simple spheres colliding with each other or the actual mesh collisions, or there's any number of primitive shapes you can use for your colliders. In addition to that, you can take your constraints, whether they be hinges or slides or box constraints or straight pin constraints, and attach those objects together. Those constraints you can also set a break force for. So if they hit with a certain force, you can cause those constraints to blow apart. You can have objects that they're sleeping in the scene and not doing anything at all until they're hit by another object, and they'll wake up and fly apart. If you have a model you want to be dynamic, you simply tell it to make a dynamics object, and you can hit play, and it'll act in the scene just like a dynamic object, like you would expect it to. For some simple destruction, you can create a bunch of bricks, make them all dynamic, add a ground plane, crash a car or balls into them, and just watch the whole thing blow up and destroy itself. With the Modo kits, you can make systems that integrate completely with Modo. It lets you make first-class objects that act just like Modo objects. Using the forms builder, you're able to add packages and the interfaces for the packages. With Recoil, the user simply adds a package onto your items. It acts just like any other Modo package that's built into it, and the user can't really tell the difference between a built-in kit and a user-added kit. One of the nice things about the Modo SDK is you can create plugin services that are new, but that other plugins have access to. For instance, the forces have a generic interface that, with the headers I supply, any user can write or have access to those forces at an SDK level. And you can take those along with the supplied SDK and either have access to those forces and fields and fall-offs, or you can write your own, or they're basically first-class Modo objects you have full access to. Forces can be used to cause explosions or to pull objects together, or simple gravity, pull objects toward each other. So you can attach a force into an object and have that object affected by gravity, and then have the other objects drawing to that or blowing apart from it. You can have forces that vortex around other objects. If you pull a force through a bunch of objects, you can have them dragged along behind it or pulled along with it. I've created forces and falloffs for Recoil, but in such a way that any developer or any user can have access to them or create new ones. Luxology is serious about developer relations and allowing developers to add on to Modo. The kit system with the configs and everything in one bundle lets you to distribute a package for every platform in one shot. It's very simple to use.